Hello guys, and welcome back to Strategic Command World War II, World at War with our Allied playthrough, our learning playthrough. Many mistakes and many fun ahistorical occurrences. Last episode, we took care of most of this turn. France is on the verge of collapse. It's right about that time historically, unfortunately. We are kicking ass in China, and battle over Africa has begun because Italy's joined the war. We have some conflict in the Atlantic as well. The battle for the Atlantic has begun. A lot of unfortunate things are happening. Before we tackle the Chinese front, which is the most important thing, there's a couple things that I've forgotten to do that I've mentioned doing and just not done. For example, we want to get the 17th Garrison at Belomorsk over to Archangelsk. This can just be run there, quite frankly. So we're going to start running it that direction. It's going to stop at Onega this turn, but we'll get it over there. We moved the corps that was there away from there, which is why it's like this. Also, at the beginning of this turn, I neglected to mention, I usually don't mention, we went from 19% to 23% with the USSR, and I do wonder what could have made that happen. It was just something, I don't know, maybe it was like an event. I'm not quite sure, because no wars were declared or anything, so that's a little odd, now that I think about it. Also, at the end of the last episode, I opted not to spend this 50 MPPs that the UK is sitting on. UK earns about 200 plus a turn with all of its colonies, shipping everything to it. Let's take a look at the convoy map. We've recently rerouted everything away from the Mediterranean, since soon this is going to be Mussolini's playground with German support. We want to avoid that, even if it means receiving less MPPs, so we've gone ahead and done that. Once France falls, we should be able to start getting US Lend-Leases, so that would take some MPPs away from the US and put them to the UK, and again, quite frankly, the UK needs them more than anybody else. But I've decided it's exactly 50 MPP. I will spend it. I will spend it. So I'm going to go open the diplomacy. We've assigned 3 chits already to Finland, who, thanks to RNG, we've pretty much guaranteed will stay out of the war with the Soviet Union and Germany, so that's not something the USSR has to worry about. But if we can even get them on our side, I think that would be amazing. I think they'd stay neutral no matter what without our interference, and if USSR does get their asses beat, which, based on our luck in Europe so far, will happen, I think we should definitely try to get them. We're going to assign one of our 2 remaining chits into Finland, so now that's a 20% chance per turn that they will start moving towards us. And every time they do move towards us, a chit is consumed. But that is the last of the UK's MPPs. Now we really can look at China. Now in China, I played very aggressively, knowing that it might hurt my manpower, but this was intentional. I played aggressively to try to achieve a result, and I did. There was a lot of air tactics happening. Our anti-air finally got to do its thing and shine around here, protecting us from enemy air. It's doing pretty well, if I do say so myself. The fighter came out unscathed, which is fantastic. We might even be able to start moving the fighter up. However, we did come under attack in some very key locations. So, I did move 2 corps forward into these hills to face down the 1st Kwantung Army. It wasn't just them, there's another army here. And they actually shifted in and out in order to attack this one corps. This corps is now damaged down to 5. I can't even fully resupply it here just due to supply considerations in the region, unfortunately. But it has accomplished a goal of mine. It has helped me. This corps also pushed up into the hills and did come under fire, mainly, I believe, air. There's bad supply here, which is, of course, a problem. Really bad supply here. It did come under attack by the enemy army, but we did stop the enemy armies here from moving back forward. Instead, our front line is still just under constant attack, and we are going to need to reinforce this front line. That is, I believe, of utmost importance, especially as some of it has its morale and readiness just plummeting. But this southern one's the one that's recovering from a full-on offensive suffered in this fortification moments prior. Hell, this army here is only 2 out of 4 entrenchment because of how often we come under fire here. But we're going to go ahead and reinforce everything on that front line. Now, this corps as well was right here. It was part of 2 corps that I sent forward to try to push a line and allow me to move my engineers forward. It's building a 3-pronged defense, northeast, southeast, and south. This corps got beat up to all hell. I believe they they were swapping these. The North Chinese Front Army, 11th Regional. Yeah, I believe they were swapping these back and forth to just particularly damage this one unit. They must have, because their entrenchment levels are down. So my goal was essentially completed, and thankfully we went ahead and built this entrenchment here, so this corps retreated into the entrenchments. Will cost 56 MPPs to get that back up to snuff. Was my maneuver here my goal worth 56 MPPs? Well, considering the fact that we're the allies, it very well may have been. Time is being bought, and time indeed will come in handy. As we can see, there's a collection of armies around here. This is their strongest point by far, all these armies. But we have a lot of corps down south that are coming up. And having now dominated the south, only missing Haikou, which is going to be a more difficult affair to acquire, unfortunately. We will go ahead and we will attack this enemy corps that's been subject to repeated attacks from us. It's fully entrenched now, unfortunately, but its readiness and morale is shirking. We will attack. We suffered 1 damage. Highly unfortunate that that is how this went, but we have more units nearby that can take advantage of this situation. So we're going to move this army out of Amoy, this corps. Let me get my words correct. We're going to take the first corps and move them into Amoy, and then we're going to attack again. No losses on either side that time. But the enemy entrenchment has gone from 3 out of 3 to 1 out of 3, which means they are taking damage, which is exactly the kind of shit we want to see. And now the corps on Canton can move forward and attack. No damage done again. We're getting real unlucky with that. But we are now in the mountains beside them, surrounding them on kind of 2 fronts with the way this is going. We do need to reinforce this corps at Henyang. It was part of a very brave, very successful advance. We have the first army, which we're going to move up into the fields near our defensive lines here, and I'm protecting the corps in Henyang. We're doing this because I'm getting ready to kind of begin a charge out of Changsha. Once we can get past Amoy to Fuchao and we get behind the enemies, all we need is brute force to get through here. I'm going to take the 4th army that is in Changsha, and I'm going to swap it into these defensive positions here, which, as we can see, we now have 3 out of 4 entrenchment. This corps is now in the rear. This corps is going to be good for backup, but for right now, it doesn't actually need to do much. We're going to move it south 1, where it can get ready to maybe join a push. This garrison, the 7th garrison, is going to move up to Changsha, because I am intending to not even be based out of Changsha shortly. Not right now. We have stuff we need to do. This, we've been damaging them, but it's not enough. We need more. So hopefully that's what we're going to get. I do wonder if one of these armies will be lured up to attack the engineers. I feel like that would be really risky, but I'm so close to being able to strike out at their HQ and all their planes. I kind of want them to fall into such a trap. They've proven that they don't have the capacity to push through a trap like the German armor does. So I certainly hope that they do it. Because my plan is to swing up from the south, while simultaneously swinging from the southwest here, and also pushing the army forward towards Wuhan and etc. to attack the enemy HQ here. Destroy an HQ and we can accomplish quite a lot. And hopefully make big gains by the end of 1940. There is still 1 corps worth moving down here, and that is the 5th corps. So we'll back up this corps again, closer to Canton. We're going to move the 5th corps down the road behind Amoy. We cannot swap in right now, but they can definitely assist in the push up this way next turn. We still have a couple more movements to do. For one, we're going to get the 23rd Army here. We're going to move it up in the zone of control of the enemy army here. We're not, however, going to attack. We are going to reinforce the 5th Army that is in the rear. We're also going to take this corps that got battered and move it back to Pao To, where it will be able to reinforce later. We're going to move the Feng HQ that's been supporting this region up. And over here, we're going to move this corps back with a little bit of a split defensive here, where it can get in supply and heal. It's done its job. We've put off a Japanese offensive, which is, I fear, soon to return. We're also going to move the first fighters here forward, finally pushing forward with the air, because, well, we can. We have anti-air here that is going to assist in protecting the first fighters from enemy air, if it is in range now. And the fighters, as of next turn, may end up being in range to start trying to attack their bombers. With all the carriers around, this may not be the best thing, but moving forward a little bit doesn't do anything to hurt me. And when I feel we have sufficient shielding at this point to make sure this stays protected. But with that, I believe we are essentially done with this turn, so we're going to go ahead and hit end turn, as I don't have any more MPPs to spend, and MPPs determine what you can do. So, land units continue to the West USA? Hell yeah. Coal strike in New South Wales continues. That is unfortunate. It's reducing our MPP gain from here, and supply. Finland is moving towards the Allies. It just went up by like 20%. Oh my god. Access rates to counter UK convoys. Yeah, we knew about that. Naval development. Naval weaponry development. Up to 100%. That sounds like a progress breakthrough. That's right. Naval weaponry for America developed. That's going to be very handy against the Japanese if we make sure to keep our ships upgraded. Some progress in more technologies for other nations. UK collecting 265 after everything. Still paying for the upgrades to Singapore, mind you. Only 25% MPPs can make it to the UK from India again, sadly, because of the diversion of supply lines, the convoys. USA collecting 170. France 117. Wow, I hope you get a chance to use it. USSR only 74. That's so sad. And China still fucking reeling it in. Now let's cross our fingers. We're having a little bit of a rough spot in China. It's really not that bad, though, but France is the biggie, isn't it? All right, so they're reinforcing the Slovakians. Enemy submarines are coming out, engaging our screening forces and losing. This is where the bombers might be able to come in handy. Reinforcing the Japanese, operationally moving south to the center. Interesting. Reinforcing on the front line by Belgium, really? Does that mean they're slowing down? Are we going to surpass the historical fall of France with all my mistakes? No, I don't think so. They're going on an air offensive, potentially planning to push to Chiloin. Enemy contact! The remaining BEF core being charged at by the enemy tanks. The engineers being wiped out, but doing their job. That's why they were there. That is why they were there. It was either that or die at Dunkirk. Okay. They're attacking my army, suffering their own losses in the meantime. That's very good for us. It's very good for us. We have a bad situation developing over here. But it's not going as fast as I thought it would. The Italians are pushing, they're attacking, battering Lyon, even surrounding it. That is unfortunate. We cannot do much to stop that. The entire Italian army's pouring in. This is too much. France will fall. It's just a matter of time. That is the way it is. Yeah, there's too much there. There's too much. Enemy submarine heading southwest. Reinforcements in the center. Interesting, so not as aggressive. These paratroopers are treated to death. Hell yeah, at least I took something down with me, right? And now it's June. It's June 7th, in fact. Calculating supply. It's June 21st now. Actually, now that it's my turn. Which means it's only 1 day away from the fall of Paris. Meaning, in a way, we have survived. Even with all my mistakes, we have made it to the next, to the historical point, which is good. Now would be a good time for us to increase our territory and income by annexing the Baltic states. One strategic benefit of doing so will be to increase the distance an invader would have to travel before reaching Leningrad. If you approve, our forces would advance into the Baltic state up to the border of Germany. Would you like to annex the Baltic states? If you say yes to occupying the Baltic states, Soviet income will increase slightly. So it's recommended to say yes to this. So there's no debuff for doing this. So yes, of course I will do this. We have annexed the Baltic states. There goes Estonia, there goes Latvia, and there goes Lithuania. We have a British carrier, the illustrious carrier. We have Maryland battleships, some other things. Special forces dare to die in a garrison that we've ordered. Oh wait, I had this garrison last turn and I don't think I deployed it. Oopsie, my bad. What's interesting is it feels like there's a fog of war here, even though I own all of this, and we have now taken it over. So that's unique. I don't know that this will just get free shit when the enemy invasion begins, but it is nice to have it. Let's go ahead and assign the units before I forget to do this again. So the big reason I had this garrison was actually to fill it in at Chongqing, so I could move this core off of here. We'll just send it behind the HQ for now. We have enough troops in the south, I feel like, for what's going on here. We have more than enough in the center as well, but one more wouldn't necessarily hurt, and it is closer. So let's put that garrison that I made in Chongqing, so we're keeping something in Chongqing. And the Special Forces is actually being recruited specifically there. Well, if we're sending a corps to the center, we might as well send the Special Forces to the south. Now for the illustrious carrier over at Bristol, it can only be deployed in this one spot, meaning we might benefit from simply just moving something to make room for it. We'll send the Cumberland heavy cruiser over to the port at Belfast, and we'll put the illustrious carrier over at Bristol where it belongs. We also got an American garrison that I made completed. We will, yeah, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take the American forces here, and force march doesn't really matter right now. We're going to march and pass Raleigh, and also march the First Army down to Norfolk, because we have our plan, as we discussed in a prior episode. We're going to put the 1st garrison over here in Washington, D.C. We have the Maryland battleship that we can deploy wherever the hell we want, and according to the plan that we are going to be undertaking, where we want is going to be on the West Coast. Everything is navally is going to be going to dealing with these gosh darn Japanese. Now let's look at the French front first, because this is just collapsing in around us. I'm going to take the HQ over here at Chalons, and I'm going to move it over to Nancy. It's really not safe here anymore. Not that over by Nancy is going to be much safer, but it's safer behind the Maginot than it is right where the Germans are about to break through. The Italians are breaking through already. I'm amazed with all my mistakes that the Germans are still having such a tough time breaking through, to be quite honest. I am ever so surprised about that. We are going to swap the 1st Army here over there, because we're probably going to reinforce this one, but for now, let's hold our tongue with that. Let's take the 3rd Army and do the one thing that can do damage with it. Attack the Slovakian unit. God, dealt 1, lost 2. Against Slovakians. That's insane. 1st Army will do the same, dealing 2, losing 2. France. What the fuck? How are you this bad? I don't understand. The Reserve Corps here is bound to fall. They're beating it into the ground. That is unfortunate. But again, not much we can really do about that. Not much we can really do. And you see what they're trying to do here. It is becoming quite obvious. We will go ahead and reinforce these corps on the front because they just need to sit there and be bullet sponges, essentially. But now we have some interesting choices to make. We need to fill this Reserve Corps up. Even though it's not going to live, this means it can take a few more hits. It's just the tanks, man. The tanks are just going to destroy us. We're running out of buffer. We're running out of buffer. We can upgrade the tanks to advanced tanks for whatever the fuck that's worth right now. Not very much, let me tell you. We're going to take this corps. Oh dear. Okay, before that, we're going to transport the 1st British Corps here. Get it out of here. It doesn't need to be here anymore. It's done its job. All right, now we're going to take this corps, now that I'm sure that this is a thing that we can do. A smart thing? A thing. It's a thing that we can do. We have very limited MPPs to use, and no matter what I use and how I use it, it's not going to be enough at the end of the day. Unfortunately, that is the case. So we're going to reinforce the heavy tanks. That's what we'll do. We'll reinforce the heavy tanks for the time being, and then, even though this is like a terrible idea, I'll tell you what I'll do. Since these special forces can still move, we're going to put them to use. They're going to move up to Le Havre that we just abandoned. And they're going to hold it, even if it kills them. Just so that this region cannot get encircled as quickly. These planes are not going to survive. They have no business being here either, quite frankly. We can't even reinforce them. That's how little business they have being here. I feel like if we can get them out, then we should. I looked it up. Try to figure out why that Dutch ship stayed with us. It's because there's about a 20% chance that after a nation falls, you can keep a unit and it'll keep fighting. The Free French will be around. There's a chance we keep one of these planes. Right now, we don't have any capability to even reinforce them. So if the Free French could potentially keep these planes, I think that's for the better. So we're going to try to get them out of here. We're going to move them up north. So this TAC bomber will go up here, southeast of Sheffield. And the fighter will go just south of Liverpool, where the Free French will hopefully be able to keep them, because as of right now, they're not really serving any purpose. They're essentially just waiting to die. Lyon, down south, is going to fall. I don't have the MPPs to necessarily repair it, and defending France, or Paris, matters more than southern France at the moment. When Paris falls, France will fall, probably. If the entire south falls, France will still not fall. So I feel it is more important that everything go into a potential one more turn protecting against the Germans than even worrying about the Italians, if that is a choice we can make. Because that's just my priority right now, I guess. We are going to need to get this core landed somewhere. Let's go ahead and take the renowned battlecruiser out of port. Send the first core over there to land in Plymouth. Put the renowned battlecruiser back in port. Very good, very nice. Apparently, I never told the first engineers of the USSR to start making any fortifications, so that is just a severe oversight. We lost 1 or 2 turns of that. The fortification might be almost done by now. Is this one fortifying? It is. Alright, so I didn't make that mistake everywhere, at least. That's nice. I know there were some movements we had to do here. The Vladivostok Corps, for example, was going to go start entrenching in this settlement to hold a key section that would allow them to bypass this swamp or this forest if they were trying to cut it to Moscow. So I'm going to entrust the Vladivostok Corps to take care of that. We can maybe get them some elite reinforcements later on, but for this instant, we can't. With the Baltics, some opportunities have opened up to us. Now, I know the Baltics will fall. It's very obvious that this will happen. But since we are going to keep Finland out of the war, and in fact, probably get them into the Allies, almost certainly, with time. Again, we don't need these garrisons up here, so they have things they can do. I'm going to keep one up here at Archangels, just in case. I'm not so sure about Murmansk, because when we get the Finns, depending on what the Finns have and what the UK can pump into them, the UK, hell, could even sail up here and land here and use this as a base, if it really comes down to it. But we definitely don't need anything up here to get ready for the Finns. So we're going to operate this 12th garrison here. We're going to send it down here to this new big fortress we just acquired. Now, this is going to die. Have no delusions. This is going to fucking die. Especially the closer it is to the front, I'm willing to bet that the Germans get buffs whenever they attack something historically of major importance, but it's more useful down there than it is up here. And I'd say the same thing about Murmansk. So we're going to operate the Murmansk garrison. It's going to become the Riga garrison, and it's going to die. Again, absolutely no delusions. It's going to die. We do have an extra corps sitting around by Moscow. We don't need both of these here. So we're going to go ahead and operate this extra one, and we're going to go sit this over in Tallinn. Tallinn's another important spot, and it kind of helps with a series of defenses that I have. It ensures they'll have to fight a little bit harder before they get to Leningrad, although the defense over here is very sparse. The garrisons are just there to slow them down. Honestly, as is this corps, while putting up somewhat of a fight and defending things that are going to be providing us MPPs and making themselves worth it if we can somehow discourage the Germans. The Germans are probably going to try to go straight for Moscow and straight for Stalingrad. The AI seems to like to copy historical movements when it can. Because we don't have to worry about the Finns, we also don't need this anti-air on the border. So we're going to operate this anti-air, and we're going to get it closer to the main defensive line, especially right here, where I expect a lot of things to be taking some aircraft fire, including the Red Fighters here, which I don't know if I'm going to keep those there. That's pretty much all we're going to do with the USSR for right now. Let's go look at America. We briefly looked at America, but not very much. We also kind of need to move this fighter. Thinking about it, it's probably going to be a lot better off on the West Coast. I hope this works for air units as well. I guess we'll find out. It's just not going to be needed on the East Coast with the plan that I'm undertaking. But we need to make sure that our naval units are up to snuff, and anything else that we might be able to make sure is up to snuff. You don't need mobility. You need infantry weapons. So, oh, we actually have a garrison here at San Francisco. Not that we necessarily want to move that. But we need to start upgrading these things here. Now, there's not a lot worth upgrading yet, but we might as well get started, because we do have naval weaponry upgrade level 1. So we can get these naval attack values up on this destroyer, and it's honestly pretty fucking cheap. We could do the same with the carriers. Now, this is a little bit of a weird thing. What this would do is this would allow the carrier to fight back better against enemy ships, but also it would allow it to bombard, which is really weird. This is not really the main reason to do this. The main reason I see to do this is the fact that we will double the naval defense value. The air research is, of course, much more important for these things. But it's better to have this upgrade than to not have it, especially since with America, again, we are relying on this here Navy to win us the day against the Japanese Navy. We can't upgrade a battleship that has only just arrived, but we do have the second corps which has arrived, which we can start moving south, getting it near some kind of port, because we're going to have to ship those things out into the Pacific eventually. In fact, I believe one more unit can be sent over to Hawaii. Let me check the rules. No, I lied. 3 or more land or air units on Oahu or the island of Hawaii. So this is pretty much the limit, unfortunately. Well, do they at least have research going into advanced fighters? They do. And aerial warfare? That's good. And long-range aircraft? That's good. This poor little Air Force fighter is going to need everything it can get. Absolutely everything. We have some points left that we can use for America. Only something cheap, something worth 100. However, there is nothing worth 100 except for anti-tank weapons and amphibious warfare, which we're already researching, and logistics. So we're probably just going to save these points and see what we can do with them next turn. And now we look at India. There's really not much to do with India right now. We got 126 MPPs. We're only 100 short of our total research funding capacity for India. We could put that into aerial warfare or amphibious warfare. Primarily, I'd say aerial, because I checked India's production, and the two things they can produce that they have sizable quantities of are infantry and planes. So we can get this going, since they have the leeway to be able to take advantage of this. And then wait till a research finishes and just use the rest of the points to start getting units pumping out, and then we can ship those out. Sure, let's do that. Aerial warfare, you only research one time anyway. So, I guess that's worth it. Damn, that's the first time I've ever filled up someone's total research funding. That's quite crazy. Now let's look at Africa with the UK. So South Africa has pushed up into Somaliland here. And of course we've had a little bit of varying success. But we have surrounded this garrison. And in fact, this has helped. I don't see the supply changing, but the readiness of this garrison has gone down. Hopefully, I believe, now that it has lost access to the road. Do we have partisans here? No, there's no partisans here to have to worry about. Let's take the second corps here and attack. Doing 2 damage, taking 2 damage. This is just pathetic. This is just absolutely fucking pathetic. What the fuck, man? Why are you so bad at your job? This corps is just like no readiness. It actually has no supply. So I guess sending it across that river may not have been my best idea ever. It helped, but it also hurt. Using it to attack, I feel like, would only further harm it. Let's put that theory to the test. Yeah, it took 1 more hit and dealt nothing. However, it did serve to reduce the enemy's entrenchments. So while this overall thing may not have been my best idea, hopefully it should work out fine. The Sudan Defense Corps has discovered that there are, in fact, Italian garrisons on both sides, but there only appears to be garrisons. We're going to move the HQ up into the settlement of Kassala, where it should be safe. And we're going to move up to Massawa, where we're going to have to begin attacking without being ready for this, like, at all. So we attacked, we took 2 damage, and dealt nothing. This is absolutely wonderful performance, British Corps. I can't wait till we get infantry weaponry. This will become so much easier. But the UK is going to have a lot of points to use anyway, so we might as well get using it. Further north in Africa, I have set up all these units to be reinforced to the max. That's why they were moved here. That's why they are here. And what do you know? It all worked out. We're going to take this field artillery and move it up behind our current lines here, where it can provide some fire support in case any Italians or Rommel come charging across that border. That's all I'm going to do in Africa for now, potential upgrades aside. We'll see how our MPPs work out. We're already down to 173 as the Brits. We still have the French Navy to deal with, and then plenty as the Brits, and finally the Chinese. So next episode's going to be probably pretty hectic. We made it to the historical fall of France, which I am so proud that I did at least that while keeping them alive. And we'll see what happens next. I'm really interested. Let me know what you guys think next in the comments. And for now, I guess, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.